It's kind of an odd transition. Almost sounded like the power went out. Okay, bottom right sock, upper left last.
There's sock.
But who's that? Oh, it's last. Okay, got it.
Look at that. You see that hole in the floor?
I know, I was about
coming
to
out of it?
comment about that.
It's like the cover to
secrets
that
of
hole
TV.
is just like laying there next to it.
Yeah.
Like, wow, someone was very lazy today when they were plugging whatever that is in.
Yeah.
I really like that in the camera shot. That's a good. I wish we could go back there and see that again. Like,
I wish we had just a mini cam on that in the bottom right with that hole there.
well, now that we know that that is hollow underneath, maybe next time
treasure there.
someone. Well, next time someone does one of those builds like yesterday with light, where he just makes a barracks and it gets scouted so he loses, we can open up the bottom of the floor and drop them into a pit. I don't care what's in the pit. It can be spikes, it can be alligators, it can be sharks, it can be venomous spiders. It can be spiders that aren't venomous and they think they're venomous.
Yeah, but they're just scary and creepy.
Yeah, someone painted their backs red so you think they're all black widows. They're not. It was really elaborate.
So, as Artosis was saying, you do get a free expansion in the back of your base, which can change a lot of the decision-making for the openers here in a Terran versus Terran. Now, you can still do weird cheese, by the way. It's still available. One-on-one maps in RTS kind of always lend themselves towards it being allowable to try to hide something on the map. And we might actually see Last do that here with this SCV. Then the SCV could be checking for proxies.
Yeah.
Also possibly tries to hide something somewhere.
I think it's like everyone's just going to check for those proxies because that's like the only thing that can really hurt you. It is a long map anyways. So like, if there isn't something right there, like we even saw sSak check inside of his main base.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, well, I guess you could have sent one of your original SCVs and built a barracks in here, but that's about it. Now, it looks like we might see... Yeah, this is a CC at the front here from Last. So if I could be so bold as to predict how he has to go with this, if he doesn't get good scouting intel, he probably has to go into Vultures from here because that natural is really wide open. If you have a small natural, you can sim city with like a bunker and live through Vulture attacks.
Yeah.
But this one's pretty big, so I would say that it's very likely that he's going to open up with Vultures and have map control because of that. Now, sSak is taking that back one, and that means that he has the full range of what he can do. Like, whatever strategy in the entire universe that he wants, he can go two-port Wraith, he can go, you know, just siege tanks right off the bat, really whatever he likes.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but at least in my understanding of TVT, and I feel like this is the matchup that is in some ways the most mysterious to me. I do wonder, is it more the rule of the openness of the natural is what allows for Vultures to be an option? Is that basically it?
Vultures are always an option just because you don't have to make a lot. And the thing is, like, when you're making Vultures, it allows you to power. It saves you a bit of gas so you can make more facts.
And I guess you're not spending that many minerals, even though Vultures come out that fast.
They give you sick reconnaissance and just having mines out. Terran mech can get through minefields, but like it gives you so much vision. It gives you you have map control if you want Vultures. That's that. You have map control. And the guy who didn't have go Vultures does not have it. So it's super strong, but like on specific maps, sometimes you just have to do it. Like if you go CC first here and you have an open natural like this, I mean, Last can do whatever he wants. He can go into 4 barracks fire bats if he wants, but he's going to die, right? Like, if his opponent were to go Mass Vultures and he was trying to tech up with that natural, then he could take a lot of damage from that. Now, this was a fantastic scout, though. Oh, my God.
How did he get vision of the minerals to slide through?
Okay, so when his last SCV was there, a little trick you can do is before your other SCV dies, you right-click a mineral patch with another SCV. And against some races, you will actually be able to get in there if they're blocking the ramp. Like, some will have enough damage output to actually stop that, but generally speaking, this early in the game, you can do it.
I actually almost forgot about that. Wow.
That was like my thing for a while. I used to wall in all the time, and I would actually stack 2 SCVs and right-click a mineral patch because all the Protosses in America were so cheesy. And I let them, like, wiggle behind my wall for a minute, and then I'd let him go out, so I'd see the tech 100%. And then I learned about economy and realized that that was terrible.
Well, back in the day, it was all about just trying to figure out what they're doing. People would always scout after Pylon or
I viewed it as a strategic game and not the mechanical game it was at that point.
yeah. And of course, if you did do that, right, and your worker got up there, people would really pause again and go, "Cracker!"
Yeah. We definitely did get some hack accusations. Looks like both sides are going to open vultures, which is totally like legit and kind of smart in a lot of ways. If you do not open vultures, then you will get, you know, your opponent will control the map, and that's not something you want.
There's a starport being made back here for last. Is there a starport being made here for sSak?
I did not see a starport for sSak.
We see the 3 factories here, but there's something in the bottom, in between the back expansion.
What he's done is he's actually skipping speed for his vultures right now, which allows him to have the gas to make that starport. And the funny thing in this matchup about the Wraith is, like, the Wraiths don't generally do much damage, but, like, if he makes one Wraith, that forces Goliaths. And Vulture Tank beats the hell out of, like, anything that has Goliaths in it.
Right.
Like, early game and mid game, Vulture Tank is the ultimate. Like, super early, it's all about the Vulture, and then Vulture Tank controls everything. So, if you can force any Goliath amount out with some Wraiths, that can be very, very good, and you kill things like Barracks that are spotting.
By the way, in mirror matchups, the general rule is the units with speed will always beat the units without speed. I remember that was, like, the first thing I ever learned in Brood War when I was playing on my mom's laptop in my room. Like, one of my first games was I was making Lings, it was ZVZ, he had his overlord over my stuff. Hold up.
Okay, so this is really cool. See, last moving out right now, I actually do not like that move out whatsoever. sSak has a far superior position, as you see, targeting down the vultures exactly as he should. Vultures kill vultures relatively quickly. They take a while in a siege tank, but this was a terrible blunder. A terrible blunder here by
This can
Last.
actually snowball now.
Yeah, sSak is going to win this game. Like, a position like this for a Terran player, this is easy to finish out. Like, he's going to kill so many SCVs here.
Yeah, and the thing is, the SCVs can never contend with the vultures. And that, I think, might be game. Now, he could eventually get his own tank out, but see the mines coming down here now. Now, if he can pollute this area with enough mines, then the game kind of ends at some level.
Oh man, he's killed so much. Yeah, there's a couple Wraiths going, but by now, like, sSak should have made an armory most likely.
By the way, SCVs and vultures do not set off mines. It should be noted. It is known, Khaleesi. And
you know nothing.
You
tasteless.
know nothing. Taste snow. They call me based snow.
Based snow.
Yeah.
No, you're John Tastgarian.
Well, I actually have to say, I'm surprised to say it, but Last is not dying there. I really thought he would. Now, if he can get these SCVs correctly repairing this raid, oh my God, he didn't do it right.
Just barely gets it. It's super hard to actually pull that off. But look, this was a huge advantage for Last. I'm so shocked. For sSak, sorry. I'm so shocked that Last went across the map with slow vultures and a siege tank. If, like, he got an SCV through. Remember, we were specifically talking about that. When you see an add-on spinning in 3 factories after a fast expansion, 100% of the time vultures are making.
Yeah.
Well, like 100, like, vultures just give you that control, and like the normal thing to do on a map like this is just keep your vultures on high ground. You see them coming, and then you're like, hey, look at me, I have more vultures, because you made a siege tank, and that takes a long time to make.
Yeah.
And then you kill all their vultures, and then you kill their siege tank. Like, if you were targeting their siege tanks, they would win the battle. Yep. But all you do is this tiny little micro of killing vultures, and it's over.
Yeah, shift click it like that, and you're going to be in good shape. sSak now getting an additional base, putting him in another advantage here against Last. Last has to tear through this minefield. Now, tanks instant fire. And unlike the vultures, which the animation of the projectile has to connect to the target before the damage is done, a tank fires like that, so it fires immediately. So one of the good ways to try to take out a Terran player who's going to try to move through the minefield without vision, because the mine pops up, you can fire it, then it'll come at you.
Yes.
As you want to stack the mines very heavily on top of each other so that too many of them pop up and everything just gets annihilated.
Now, one thing to mention is the speed with which something stops to attack. You're very right, the grenade comes out of the vulture, so that takes time for the attack animation, but tanks, while they do have an instant attack, it takes them longer to stop an attack. Actually, the greatest unit at just killing mines as they pop up is the Goliath.
Yeah.
Like, you can attack move Goliaths through a giant minefield, and they'll basically clear it. Like, they'll very rarely get hit. But of course, you don't really want Goliaths against ground units, so that can be a tricky balance as well.
As you can see now, we have Cloak getting upgraded over here. Last playing catch-up by trying to get that third base up and running, but Last has basically reclaimed control of his side of the map. The mine's no longer a threat. sSak already setting up a position so that Last will have a harder time pushing him on his high ground area on this side of the map. It should be pointed out, it doesn't look clear to the naked eye unless you played a ton of Brood War, but there's basically a ramp that goes up. See that to the left? That's high ground. Then that's a ramp going down. Yeah. So it can look kind of funny, but that's what's going on there. So it's not a flat surface. And you have a major advantage if you're on high ground fighting low ground.
Now, is something interesting the Observer just showed. First off, there's a Valkyrie, which is kind of neat. Like, obviously that is to go against the Wraiths that sSak is making right now, but he's not super committing. He's just getting some with Cloak, which is always like kind of a fun thing. If your opponent has some Wraiths and you have some Wraiths, it's like, okay, can I catch his Wraiths off guard? Because if you just wipe them suddenly, like if you get in there, get the first volley, you're going to win. So that could be a very, very strong move. But something very interesting, neither side is getting +1 attack.
Yeah.
And in TVT, you want to rush towards +2 mech as quickly as possible. The whole game dynamic changes. Tanks 2-shot tanks at that point when they're in siege mode. And the difference between 2-shot and 3-shot can be felt in your bones, Tasteless.
Yes.
It is the most brutal difference in the universe for any upgrade. It's like, against +1 attack, you can break tank lines. Against +2 attack, do not even waste your time. You may as well just take more expansions.
Hey, you know, what's crazy about that in TVT is since everything kind of comes down to the tank, a lot of games with Terran, everything's sort of centered around the tank being such a powerful unit. But there is another story going on in this game, and that's Last getting ready to try to flip this upside down with air dominance. He's getting a few more Valkyries with those Wraiths. Now, there's not a ton of Goliaths on either side here. And even if you have a great tank position, you can absolutely dominate a pretty good ground area by just getting Wraiths over there and taking the tanks out and driving them back.
Now, this is a good move by Last. I like this a lot. He's starting to control more of the map. That top left base is actually one of sSak's bases. And this map splits diagonally from the games that I've seen on it so far, and just by kind of the feel, right? Because the fourth base is always going to be that one right there that we're looking at, and then it's natural to stay on the high ground from there, right? So it just kind of makes sense to keep that area. But if Last could control that top left base, that would be like a really big deal.
There is a command center over here in the top right, which would be a very good target to try to get this air army over if he can do that. But this is what TVT starts to look like at around this phase of the game, is that the map begins to get cut in half. And people are looking for openings anywhere. If it stays like this for an incredibly long time, we sometimes go into battlecruiser tech. I don't think we're going to necessarily have it this game.
Yeah, this map is big enough that we might not, but it's getting split pretty hard, right? So you see how he's starting to build turrets on both sides? It's actually going more and more towards that. Like, you can go Wraiths instead. There are different ways to go air at the end of the game. Like, if you go Wraiths quickly enough before they've mined up enough and maxed out to the point where they make 1,000,000 billion turrets, then Wraiths can break everything. Of course, if you are just in super turtle mode, like you have, you're not losing any units, so you just put all your money into turrets, then battlecruisers can be the way. But this game is starting to look like it could go there. If they both stay on high ground on their sides of the map and continue to build turrets, like, if the game does not start to really go in one direction very, very soon, then we are looking at a 40-minute game.
Absolutely we are. Now, it's a lot of heavy lifting here for both sides to try to push through, but we do see this technique used of scanning. Since you see further, the tank can fire farther than its actual vision. You siege up just outside of where their siege tanks are and then hit them with a scan. But insane drop here by sSak.
Yeah.
I'm not clear. Well, hold on.
I don't know where he wants to go. Sometimes you can use that to break a line that doesn't have too many Goliaths in it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times you drop an expansion or the main, but you can if you want to. That's so many dropships.
That is so many.
You can if you want to try to drop them on an army, but I think just judging by the number of dropships, sSak is going to go for the jugular here and just try to end this game. Like, this is going to be the most important moment of this game here.
He's actually decided this is not going to 40 minutes.
Yeah.
This
guy says,
is
F you, Artosis, I'll decide when this game ends.
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of them is about to decide that. If he flies into those turrets, these wraiths are going to make a beeline for, oh my god, they move away from where the dropships are.
I think he's going to draw them away with his own wraiths.
Oh, that would make so much sense too.
Here we go. They're headed up north. Oh, man.
Well, that is a huge drop-off. How many Goliaths does he have? I don't know if he actually has enough Goliaths in here.
No, I think he's actually
okay. Yeah, he does. Never mind.
Well, we can't.
Some of them didn't unload.
We don't really know what's happening in this fight with these animations, but
so
that's going to be a GG. Last and a big upset. Loses to sSak with a pretty wild, massive drop there.